Have you ever felt like you're part of a pattern you just can't quite see? You know, like there's some kind of hidden order to the world, something working behind the scenes that organizes everything from traffic jams to political movements? Well, it turns out there is. It's a force called emergence, and once you learn how to see it, I promise you'll start noticing it absolutely everywhere. So let's dive in. All right, we're going to start with a puzzle, a situation that I guarantee has driven you crazy at some point, and the answer to it is really the key to understanding one of the most powerful forces that shapes our entire world. Okay, picture this. You're stuck in one of those phantom traffic jams. You're just crawling for miles, and when you finally get to the front, you're expecting to see something, right? But there's nothing. No accident, no breakdown, no police car, just open road. So who do you blame? Who gets the frustration? The answer is, well, it's nobody. And at the same time, it's everybody. See, the real culprit isn't a person. It's the system itself. Every single driver is making what seems like a rational choice. You know, keeping a safe distance, tapping the brakes when the car in front does. But the collective result is this massive traffic jam that nobody wanted and nobody designed. And this right here, this is the core idea of emergence. It's what happens when you get order, when you get complexity, without any kind of leader or a blueprint or any central control at all. It's organization without an organizer. And believe me, this fundamental principle explains way more about our world than you might think. So how do we get from a bunch of individual drivers to a massive system-wide traffic jam? Well, it happens when the individual parts of a system start creating something that is way more than just their combined total. And, you know, this isn't some brand new idea. Over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle pointed out that when you put things together, you can get something that is fundamentally new, something that wasn't there in any of the individual pieces. He was basically describing the very essence of emergence, when the whole becomes something totally different from its parts. And that's really our formal definition of emergence. It's when a system, a group of things interacting, starts to develop new capabilities at the large scale that you would never ever find by just looking at the tiny individual components. The whole literally becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Now, to really get this, it helps to understand what emergence isn't. Take a clock, for example. It's complicated, sure, but its behavior is just the sum of its parts working together. We call that a resultant system. An emergent system, that's different. You can't predict a flock's crazy aerial maneuvers by studying just one bird, just like you can't understand consciousness by studying one single neuron. The magic, you see, is in the interaction. Let's look at one of the most incredible examples of this in nature. A single termite. It's a simple, almost powerless insect. It's basically just following some basic chemical trails. You really wouldn't expect much from it on its own. But you put millions of them together, each one just following those same simple rules, and something absolutely astonishing happens. They build these massive, incredibly complex mounds with sophisticated ventilation systems that regulate temperature and humidity perfectly. They cultivate their own fungus gardens for food. And they do all of this, all of it, without a single architect or an engineer or a foreman calling the shots. It's all emergent. It's incredible. This idea isn't just for insects. Not at all. It's actually one of the most potent forces in all of human history. The very same dynamic that allows termites to build these incredible mounds can allow seemingly powerless people to topple entire dictatorships. So back during Argentina's brutal military dictatorship, a small group of just 14 mothers started gathering every single week in the same public square. Individually, they were completely powerless against this regime. Their only action was to just stand there, silently, demanding to know what happened to their children who had been disappeared. But from this simple, repeated action, something new and powerful emerged. As a group, they created a kind of visibility that a single person never could have. They had protection in their numbers. Their collective grief and their sheer persistence gave them this moral authority that was just impossible to ignore. A brand new political power literally emerged from their powerlessness, a power that helped bring down a government. But here's the crucial point, and you've got to get this. Emergence is not always good. This exact same force, this organization without an organizer, can create some of our biggest, most destructive problems. This is what's sometimes called pathological emergence. It's when every single person in a system is acting rationally, just doing what's best for them, but the collective result is a total catastrophe that ends up hurting everyone. Think about a stock market panic. It starts with just a few rational actors selling to limit their own risk. Well, that lowers the price a little bit, which makes it rational for other people to sell. Pretty soon, it becomes rational for everyone to sell, not because the company is suddenly worthless, but just because everyone else is selling. The end result? A market crash that nobody intended, emerging from a cascade of perfectly logical individual decisions. And we see this online every single day. The individual rule is pretty simple. Post something that gets a reaction. And the algorithm's rule is also simple. Show people more of what they react to. So what's the emergent property? Outrage and extremism get amplified because they generate the strongest reactions. The entire online conversation becomes way more toxic than any single person wanted it to be, all because of the system's simple, invisible rules. So once you start to see this pattern, in traffic, in nature, in society, you really can't unsee it. Understanding emergence gives you this completely new lens for making sense of our incredibly complex world. Here's probably the best way I've heard it put. If you think of systems thinking as a microscope that lets you zoom in and see all the individual parts, then emergence is like a telescope. It lets you zoom way out and see the vast, surprising, and sometimes frankly scary patterns that all those parts create when they come together. So what should you take away from all this? I think there are two really big things. First, for some of the most complex problems we face, the answer isn't in the individual parts. It's in the spaces between the parts. It's in the interactions. And second, the most powerful systems, for good and for bad, are often the ones nobody actually designed. From traffic jams to revolutions, the most profound changes often emerge from the bottom up, not the top down. Think about it. The culture at your workplace, the dynamics of your friend group, even the general mood of your city, these are all emergent properties. They all arise from simple, often invisible rules that everyone is following. So I'll leave you with this. Look around at your own world. Try to identify the invisible rules that you and everyone else are following. And then ask yourself, what are we all creating together that none of us could possibly create alone?